Welcome to this new tutorial series, which I might call Copycat. I'm not entirely sure of the name yet, but you'll see the name on the playlist it belongs to. It will be a series where we look upon recreating skills, abilities or powers from other games. This series is inspired by a YouTube content creator named Matthew Palaye. He had a series called Let's Create where he recreated certain skills like Genji and Tracers from Overwatch. Unfortunately, he does not create any more content on his YouTube channel, but I will leave a link to his channel down below. He's a very well-spoken person and has some really nice videos if you want to check that out. In tribute to Matthew, the first character ability that we will be creating today is the Genji character, more specifically his dash, from a game that I have played a lot called Heroes of the Storm. Now, I will be approaching this a bit differently from Matthew, and I will also have my own solution to do this, but let's just jump into it and see where we land. So this is what we will be trying to recreate today. This will be an emulation of the Genji dash in the game Heroes of the Storm, and this is what it looks like. So you have this little dashing animation and a dash translation for the character, along with some Niagara trails for both the attacks and for the actual dash. So that's the result we will be creating today, so stay tuned. So here we are inside Unreal Engine 5 if you want to follow along today. This is early access version 2, I believe. This is fully applicable to do in Unreal Engine 4 if you want to do that as well. There should not be any issues. There might be some visual differences, of course, but hopefully I will explain everything so well that you will be able to follow along and create it in either Unreal Engine 4 or Unreal Engine 5. Now the template I have here currently today is the top-down template, which is that when you play, you run around and you have a character here, and you can see that I have this trail, and it is from the tutorial from yesterday. And this is going to be the base, because I might continue to create on this project, which is why I've called this project HOTS abilities up here. So this might be something like I create many different characters from Heroes of the Storm potentially. So in order to give that possibility some space, I have started to create some folders here. I have a character folder which I have the Genji in here, and in here I have an animation I have created and created. This is an animation that is from Mixamo, and I've just imported it and played around with it a little bit to see that it looks okay, and created a weapon socket in case I wanted one. And in addition to that, I have also gone and done some modifications to the root motion of this character. And the root motion, in case you don't know, is this animation has root motion, which means that when the character is playing the animation, it's actually moving away from where it started. If we go to animation bones, actually, all hierarchy over here, you can see there's a red bone over there. It starts off at 0 or not showing at all, and that's the root motion. It's like it's transposition in the world, basically. So you can see that when it has a red line, that means that the character will actually be moving away from where the capsule component of the character is. Unless you have root motion enabled, then the character capsule component will follow along. However, this animation did not work or did not look very well when you just enabled root motion like this. So I had to do some editing to make it look okay. So now it looks like it's standing in place and doing the same animation, and it looks okay, and this is what I will be using today. So if you want to use your own animations, that's perfectly fine. I've just taken a placeholder that looked something similar to what we will be looking at. So basically this is all the stuff that I have here currently today. It's nothing special other than that. You can use whatever animations that you want to for your purpose if you want to use this. A tip is that if you want to try and use exactly the same animation or a different animation, is to make sure to go to the marketplace this month because they have a free asset of the month there, which is called something the root guide extractor or something like that, and that is what I used to manipulate and change this animation from being a root animation to being an animation that was in place. It was a very handy tool. It wasn't that difficult to play around with, and I would recommend it warmly for future use if nothing else. And it's just free this month, so if you want to have it in the future, you better pick it up now. So let's take a look at how we're going to start approaching this series moving forward. And the first step is that we want to make a case study. So here we have a clip that was released by the Heroes of the Storm team when Genji was released into the game. And what we want to do is we want to get a feel for whatever ability we want to create. So a good way to approach that is to take something that exists. So in this case we have a hero reveal here where they show off all the different skills, and we can use that as our benchmark to see what kind of key components does it seem to have, how does it look, how fast is it, what is it doing, and things like that. And that is very useful because then you have something to work towards. So what we will be doing is we will be looking at this video where he will be doing his dash, and then we will check what are some of the things that we want to try and emulate, and then we have that as our goals for the actual video then, or the actual tutorial. And let's just jump forward a little bit to where he starts doing his dashes. So here's the dash that I'm talking about that we're supposed to recreate, and you can see that it is a very quick dash. It moves very, very fast, and it has some animation trails, which is why we did the animation trail tutorial yesterday. And yeah, so what I've seen is that this specific dash that's happening here, it seems to have an animation where he's lunging forward and he gets some animation trails behind him. He seems to be getting some animation trails along his arms, and also he's moving from one position to a different position very quickly and then ignoring whatever he is passing through. So that's essentially what we will be doing today. We will be having a character that performs a dash from one place to another. We will have some animation trail just to make it look similar. We'll put in some animation trails for the attack as well, which is what the animation is for. And then we'll see where we land basically. It won't look exactly the same because they have some more advanced trails here that we're going to be creating today. Also, these effects over here are not made by animation trails. These are most likely meshes that are being illuminated with materials. So that's not a technique that we will be going through today. We will be going through it in some point in the future though. So yeah. So just as a precursor, since this might be something that we return to by creating more characters in the future, Heroes of the Storm is based like most MOBAs. It consists of having a limited set of abilities that you can use on a few keys. Off the top of my head, I don't remember quite, but I think it's like on the key QER, maybe D also. You have some abilities that you can activate. So let's start off with actually creating those inputs so we have them available, and then we will continue with like creating an inheritance hierarchy. So we'll go up to edit and we'll go to project settings, and we will go to input, and since these are action mappings, we'll go to the action mapping part, and these are difficult to name because they're going to be different abilities and different characters, so we can't have something generic, so we can just call them ability Q, so we know which one it's supposed to be, and then we can have a Q as the default for it. We can have a ability E keyboard. Okay, that didn't help a lot. Let's just do it this way. And we'll grab the E key over here. We'll add another one. It will be ability R. And we'll grab that one. Like so. And let's create one for D as well, just so we have it. We might be going back and changing these along a little bit further on in case I am remembering something wrong, but for now this will do just fine as placeholders. So now we have that, and we can close this down and we can go back into our character here. So what we have as a base is our top-down character. This will act as our parent. So what we want to do now is we want to create a child of this. So we create a child blueprint class, and we can call this one Genji, like so. And we can move it into our folder over here so we can have it a little bit structured. So this will be our character over here, Genji. And yeah, let's just open him up and look a little bit at what he has. So let's open up our event graph, and we will right click and type in ability E. I think that's the key that it is on in the game. And this will work as our input to create this. So we need to do a few things here. We need to determine, first of all, when we do this dash, we want to figure out where do we want to go. So let's just create a function for that. Something we can call determine dash destination. And this is a really good name because this means that this function is where we keep our logic for if we want to change some logic. To begin with, we can have it as an output that we want to return a vector, so an actual position in the world. And we can call this the dash destination. And inside of here, we can have the logic to determine where that is. So to begin with, what we can do is we can do something like actor forward vector. This will give us the direction forward for our character, which is where the dash will perform. Now, in the game, it doesn't really work like that. You have a directional indicator. We might return and expand upon this later on to have that included as well, but for now we won't be having anything like that. And we want to see, by having a direction or forward, we want to see where would we be dashing. So we need to have a variable to say how far we're going to dash. Let's create a variable for that and say dash distance. And we'll change that to be a float. So this will be what determines how far we dash. So to begin with, we can say that this should have a value of 100, which is equivalent to, let's do 1000, that makes more sense. 100 would be 1 meter, that's a little bit short, so 1000. So this is our dash distance, and this is what we change if we want to make the dash longer or shorter, depending on our needs. So we will multiply this, and in Unreal Engine 5 you automatically get a multiplication with whatever type that you're recreating, but for Unreal Engine 4 you can get a float immediately. For Unreal Engine 5 we have to go and convert our pin to a float if we want to do that. And then we have it like so. So now we have the direction where we want to go. To get the actual end destination, we need to get our actor location, because we need to add the change in a direction to our start vector to be able to find what that end result actually is. So this is what's going to be our dash destination. Now, if we wanted to, in the future, we can change something here, like if we want to do a ray cast and check if there's a wall in front of it, so we're stopped in front of a wall, or maybe we want to do some kind of validation, checking that we are not dashing inside of a wall or anything like that, then all of that logic would go in this part of the code. So let's go back to our event graph, and now we can use our determine dash destination over here. And we'll say unpressed that we're going to use this. Now, a few things. when you do something like a dash in a game, you tend to have a moment where you lose control as a player. So what we want to do is, when this dash is starting to happen, we want to take that control away from the player so it doesn't start moving during something like an ability like this. And this specific ability, a dash, is a good place to have a disabling of inputs for our character. But to do that, we will first do this. We will type in begin play. And the reason we do this is because we want to have our pawn's controller. And you get this here. So this specific pawn that we are currently in, so Genji, its controller is going to be got like this. However, we get a basic controller reference, but we want to have a player controller reference, and we need that for our disable inputs. So we will be casting this to our player controller, like so, and then we will be promoting this variable, and we will be calling it player controller reference. So then we have that set at the beginning of the play, which means that we have it available here. So here we can now go and get a player controller, and we can say disable input. That's not how we want it. We want it to be like this. So we start off by disabling the input. We determine where to dash. We have an output here that says where that dash is. Now we need to actually start doing the dashing part. However, what we will do is we will first do this. We will get actor location, and we will save this variable. So we'll promote this like so. We'll say this is our start low. Okay, no, calm down. Start location. So we have set our start location before we do anything. The reason we do this is if we don't have the start location and we start doing some of the things that we will be doing in a moment, we don't have this as a reference point, and we will be getting a little bit of problematic values basically. So this is what we're going to be working with. Because now we can use something like a timeline, for example, and we can say dash progress. We can say that we want to play from start. We can open this up. We want to have a float. We want to add 2 keys. Now, generally speaking, you want to have something like, when you use a timeline, you want to go from something like from 0 to a certain time at 1. So in this specific case, we looked at the video, and I got a rough estimate of maybe 0.25 seconds is how long it takes to actually take the character to dash. So we'll be using that estimated time, and we'll be using the value of 1. We will also click on these 2 buttons so we have it centered. We will change the length of the timeline to be as long as the actual timeline here. So if we wanted to change this dash to take longer or shorter, this is where we would go in and change it. So we change the time here and change the length of the clip as well. So now we have a timeline that is going to go for 0.25 seconds, and it's going to give us an output here. That's called new track. Let's go in here and rename that one. We can do that by clicking here and pressing F2, and we can call this dash progress. So this will represent the percentage progress for this timeline. So we get that out there. Now what we want to do is we want to do an interpolation. An interpolation is, or a linear interpolation is, when you go from one value to a different value, and you use something like an indicator showing how far along those are. So you can have something like 2 colors that you blend between, or 2 locations that you blend between, or 2 float values that you blend between. So you can have like a float value of 1 and a float value of 10. And then you can say that you should be increasing from 1 to 10 depending on a different value. The easiest way to demonstrate this is probably by doing a lerp. It comes up as lerp vector. So you see here, lerp vector. Lerp vector takes two different vectors and an alpha. And we have an alpha over here in our dash progress that goes from 0 to 1. So that's what we will be using as our alpha. When it comes to the A and the B here, the A is the start. So that will be our start location that we just set over here. Let's move that away a little bit so. And the B will be our end destination. And that's what we have actually as a dash destination over here. So we'll be moving that over so. So now we will be interpolating between these two different results. And that's all good and fine. And this is why we wanted to have a start location to begin with, because if we always took our actor location and threw that in here, that means it will be interpolating between the actor location and the dash destination, but the actor location would always be updating, because when we're updating here now, we're going to be setting our actor location to whatever we have lerped here. So if we had lerped partially through these values, and then it comes in here next time it wants to see, okay, I'm supposed to lerp some more, and then our start location is like halfway through instead of actual start that we had, then it says, okay, I'm supposed to be between halfway and the end, and since it says like maybe 60% here then it would try to get 60% between the halfway mark and the end mark, which would be approximately 75% along the way. So we would get a totally erroneous result from this basically. And this is why we saved the start location to begin with as a origin point for the lerp over here. Once this dash is done, we want to say we want to enable input again, because now we won't allow the player to be able to move again. And we have our player reference controller over here to do that. So that is essentially all that we are going to need for the dash when it comes to the functionality. So let's check that out and see what it looks like. So to begin with, we have a character here that's a top-down controller, which is the parent class. And we're going to be marking our Genji character over here, and then right-clicking. Then we can see replace selected actors with Genji blueprint. So now you can see we have a Genji over here. So if now I go into the... Okay, that didn't work as well. Sorry for that little cut there, but I had to figure out what was going wrong here, and I believe I understand what's happening now. We're having an issue with when we are playing with our top-down character. Everything is fine, but when we pick our Genji character, things are getting broken, something related to the camera. And I believe that the reason is, if you open up the top-down character, you can see it has a few events. It has a tick where it does a bunch of stuff, and it has something for input action VR, and it also has a begin play. And I believe that this is the issue, because when we created a child class of Genji, then we also said we wanted to do some stuff on begin play, but this means that we will be overriding whatever is happening over here in the parent. And we don't want to have that happen. So what we want to do is we want to let's see, there it is, Genji, and we'll get is it parent? No. Call to parent function. So this means we call the begin play of the parent first, and then we do our things. So top-down character works fine. And we change to Genji, and we play, and it's working fine as well. So that you can follow along with why that went wrong. I'm sorry for the cuts, because it took a while, because I didn't immediately see what was going wrong. Anyway, let's go back to actually testing the ability. So we have this character, we want to have it dash when we press E, and that's what it's now doing. So whatever direction we have it in, it starts interpolating towards that direction. Now you can see it doesn't have any checks for something like if you're inside of geometry like this. So if you want to have something like that, you should put that in the dash, but we're just going to be working around creating the actual ability for now. So this is the logic for our character moving, and that's all working decent. We do, however, want to add a little bit of flair with it when it comes to the character also had an animation playing and some trails and stuff like that, so we'll just add that a little bit quickly as well, so we'll get a final result. That is all for this episode. Hope to see you in the next one. Keep on learning. Take care.